Ms Roddick.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and I'm grateful to Douglas Ross for managing to get this debate on the bulletin. As he mentioned, a few of us had tried, and fair play to him for managing to meet the cross-party requirement. Having sat on a planning committee myself, I'm always extremely careful not to cross the line into prejudicing a quasi-judicial process, which is why I worded the motion the way that I did, but that of course still allows any member to take responsibility for their own contribution in the debate. Being careful not to prejudice does not mean that I cannot demand that developers meet their obligations, that communities' voices are heard, and that legitimate, evidence-based, very detailed concerns being brought forward are acted upon, especially when it's volunteers in communities, whether that's individuals, community councils or businesses, putting the effort into crafting these and sharing them with those who are responsible for making the decision. That has not happened here, and that deeply concerns me. I'm extremely disappointed to have had such strong and varied representation from people in the Highlands and Moray stating that they are not being listened to. If the people who have to live with the reality of a development, whether that's visual interference, impact on livelihoods or knock-on traffic, waste or employment impacts, feel that their voices are just being treated like background noise that can be tuned out, then the process is broken. And OSG refusing to attend a public meeting illustrated that point for me. The Highlands is used to promises of gold rushes, but then even when short-term jobs or community benefit are offered, we often feel left worse off afterwards. I've seen developers work with communities to identify what their priorities are and how they can mitigate any of the unwanted impacts. It will never please everyone, but it can be done. Infrastructure must serve the community, not the other way around. And vague gestures at being related to green energy doesn't cut it. Mentioning net zero in your planning application certainly does not excuse you from impact assessments, consultation, partnership working. The people that I met in Committee Room 5 ahead of this debate, thanks to my other colleague Tim Eagle, who arranged a drop-in event, are not opposed to the future. They just want the local community to shape that future. That's what the Scottish Government's guidance says should happen. That is the point in local development plans, and I think it's an entirely reasonable expectation for my constituents to have. I note that our constituency MSP for Moray, Richard Lochhead, has also asked pertinent questions about what areas were under consideration. And I do think there's a lack of information here. People can understand things better with more information. Of course, they can also form arguments that are more relevant and effective when they have more information, which is why it cannot just be left up to developers to decide whether they want to share the information that local people deserve to have. When we discussed this issue earlier in the committee room, there was an awful lot of speculation going on. Now, much of that might turn out to be unfair, but it might be bang on the money. The point is that nobody, from the campaigners to the MSPs in the room, knew the answer to that. To me, planning and consenting should never be decided on a political basis. Fundamentally, I do not believe that politicians who are acting out with the planning process should decide who gets to build and who doesn't. We all have interests, we all have biases, and the planning process is designed to focus in on only what is relevant to the application. My personal objection or support of any application should never be worth more than my constituents down the road. So the voices of the people in Nairn, Findhorn, Burghead, Buckie, Forres, Elgin, who have all reached out to share their material planning concerns, are the ones who must have a say in this process. And I will continue to do what I can to draw attention to those objections and call out any failures to engage, lack of transparency or poor communication, because all that needs to be done here is to listen to the local experts. Thank you.